Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to solve the packet tracer activity basic device configuration from chapter 10 section 4.3 CCNA-1-v7 introduction to networks. So in this task we have two LANs, two networks, the one on the right with this network address and the second one on the left with this network address. We will configure both the IP version 4 and IP version 6 for the router and for the switch, as well as for the end PCs. So let's see what is the task and what we will learn from the objectives. First, I downloaded the PDF file from the course material and I opened it with the Microsoft Word. So it's much easier for me now to write the IP addresses here. And as you know, this is the here we can see our progressing during the task. And then I will increase this one so I can check my progressing from here at the same time. So let's see what we have. First, we will receive one of the possible topologies, and here we have this topology right now, and the other topologies is pretty much the same. The only thing that the host name or the IP addresses are not the same, but the structure of the networks are the same. So what are the objectives? First, we need to complete the network documentation, this one. We need to fill with the IP addresses, and then we have to perform basic device configurations on the router and a switch. So as you can see here, we have two switches, but we will do the configurations on a router and a switch, one of the switches, not two. And then we need to verify connectivity and troubleshoot any issues. The scenario: your network manager is impressed with your performance in your job as a LAN technician. She would like you to demonstrate your ability to configure a router that connects two LANs. Your tasks include configuring basic settings on router and the switch using the Cisco IOS. You will also configure IP version 6 addresses on network devices and hosts. You will then verify the configurations by testing end-to-end connectivity. Your goal is to establish connectivity between all devices. Okay, so again, we need to configure the IP addresses on the router and on this one of the switches and in the PCs, both types, IP version 4 and IP version 6. And then we need to check the connectivity, of course, by using the ping command. Here we have the VLAN interface on will not be reachable over IP version 6. So let's see here. So as you can see, this switch is locked, so we cannot configure everything here. We cannot do the configurations. Okay, in this activity you will configure the RTL router, router, and then as we can configure this switch. So ASW2 and the PC host. Note that packet tracer will not score some configured values. However, these values are required to accomplish full connectivity in the network. So what are the requirements? First, we provide the missing information in the addressing table. So we need to fill the information here. Of course, we can get all the information from the topology, this one. So as you can see here, we have the device, and since there are two gigabit Ethernet, so it's, of course, this is the router here. So let's see first if we have any pre-configured value. So we will go to the enable and then show IP or show IP interface brief, or we can directly do the show running configuration. So let's see what we will have. So we have the host name. Here we need to configure the host name. We don't have any IP version 6. We will see again we don't have any pre-configured addresses. We have the Gigabit Ethernet 00 with no IP address. We have also Gigabit Ethernet 01 with no IP address. Okay, so we need to configure everything here. So let's start with this. So here the device is RTA, and with Gigabit Ethernet 00. Let's see which one is Gigabit Ethernet 00. So this one is Gigabit Ethernet 00 and this one is Gigabit Ethernet 01. Now how can we find the IP address here? So as you can see here, this is the network address for IP version 4 and for IP version 6. So this port here it will be the default gateway for all the devices in this LAN, because this is a local LAN and this is a remote LAN for this network. So when a device wants to communicate with another device from a remote network, as you know, the destination, the packet will be forwarded to the default gateway. And as we learned, the default gateway is the IP address of the port in the router to this network. In another word, when a device is connecting to a LAN and the LAN connecting to a port in the router, this port in the router will be the default gateway. And it is always recommended, it is always it's much better to choose the IP address of the default gateway as the first usable IP address in the subnetwork. So this is the subnetwork address. So the default gateway in this case will be 10.10.10.1. So here the IP address for this port will be the first usable address in the network, and 10.10.1 of course with prefix 24. This is the subnet mask. This is in case of IP version 4. What about with IP version 6? So if you still don't have any information about IP version 6 or any knowledge, it's no problem, because this IP version 6 will be covered in chapter 12. So for now, what you only need to do, how to assign it, how to put the IP address or how to configure the IP address in the devices. This is the task now. How to find the IP address with the link local address, or all the information will be given in chapter 12. So here, what is the IP address in this port in case of IP version 6? It is the same, the first usable IP version 6 address in this subnetwork. And to do this, we type the same. This is unicast global IP version 6. ACAD and then 100, and of course the first usable IP address will be 1 with /64. Okay, so what about link local address? In IP version 6 always we have to set the global unicast address and link local address, and it is always FE80. Sorry, FE81. So this is the link local address for IP version 6. Now let's move forward and let's do the IP version 6 and the IP version 4 for the port Gigabit Ethernet 01. The same concept here. This port will be the default gateway for this network, and the IP address for this port is recommended to be the first usable IP address in the subnetwork. And the subnetwork here we have 10.10.11.0. So the IP address version 4 here will be for this port is 10.10.11.124. Okay, so what about the IP version 6? We have here, this is IP version 6, and we will choose the first usable IP address in this subnetwork address, and it is 2001, and then DB8, and then ACAT 200, 164. So here we have again that, as you can see here, this is the 100 and this is 200 because this is another subnetwork, and again the link local address here FE81. Okay, so this is all about the router. Let's move to the VLAN 1 and VLAN 2. So here we cannot configure VLAN because it's locked. So here we need to configure the VLAN IP address because in case we need to access it from a remote device. But before we set the IP address here in the VLAN, let's check what are the status and the PCs. Are they configured or not? Let's try with user 1, and we can check the configuration of the IP addresses here. So we have here the IP version 4 address. We can put it for user 1. And here we have the IP address for IP version 4. Of course, it is with subnetwork 24 again. And we don't have IP version 6 here. So before the IP version 6 here, we will have to choose the default gateway for this device. The default gateway for this device in case of IP version 4 is the IP version 4 for the port in the router connecting to it. So here the IP version 4 of this port will be the default gateway, and we already set this, and it was this one. So we can put it only here. Okay, now what about in case of IP version 6? In IP version 6 here we can set any IP in this domain, and let's assume that we will choose the second one as the IP address for this device, when the default gateway for the default gateway here for this device is the link local address of this port, and the link local address for this port is this one. So here please pay attention that in case of IP version 4 we put the IP version 4 of the port of the router as a default gateway, but in case of IP version 6 we put the link local address of the port in the router as a default gateway. So we don't put this one as a default gateway. Okay, so let's do this with the IP version 6. Here 64 and default gateway FE80. and let's close it. Let's open it again, and it's okay. So this is all about user 1. We need to set the default gateway for this device, and it is this one. And you can see our progressing here. Okay, let's do the same with user 2. Now in this case I will check the IP addresses from the command line interface. I can type ipconfig. As you can see here, for IP version 4 we have this one is already set. We have the network or subnet mask. We don't have default gateway. In case of IP version 6 we don't have any IP sets, and this IP version 6 sets and this device. So let's do this. Let's do the configuration here. So the IP here is, this is user 2. With IP address this one, and the default gateway for this device again is the IP address of this port, and it was this one. We can copy it because it is the same, and then we need to set, this is the default gateway for this device, and we need to set the IP version 6 for this device. Again, we can take any IP address from above this one, and we already used one, so we can make a 3 here as the IP for this device, and the default gateway for this device is FE80 link local address. Okay, let's set here the IP version 6 64, and this was 3 here. Link local, the default gateway is the link local address. Let's see if everything is okay. Yes, as you can see here, our progressing. Okay, now let's do the same thing but for the second LAN. Let's go to user 3. Let's check the configuration here. We have the IP version 4. Yes, it is here. And the default gateway with subnet mask 24. The default gateway for this device is the IP address of this port, and the IP address for this port is this one. For IP version 6 we can choose any IP above this one in this domain. Here we will make 2 because 1 we already used it, and the link local address is FE81. Let's do the configuration here. We set the IP, the default gateway on this device. Okay, then the IP version 6 with the default gateway FE80. And finally, we will do the same with user 3, and then we will do the same with user 4. What we have here, again, we will see the IP address. Just copy. And then the default gateway for this device is the IP address of this port, and it is this one in case of IP version 4. And for IP version 6 we can set the third one as the IP version 6 for this device. Link local address is the default gateway. Let's do the configuration here. So we need default gateway from this one, from IP version 4. The IP version 6. /64. And we finished the IP address table. We need only now to set the VLAN 1 IP address and the switch 2. Because switch 1 we cannot configure it because it's locked, so we need to configure switch 2 with IP address, and it is in this network. So let's say here that's ASW2. We need to choose an IP address for this VLAN 1, and it is in this network, and let's say we will choose 10 again, 11, 15 or 20 as the IP address for the VLAN. So here we have 10, 10, 11, 1, and we decided to use 10, 10, 11, 20 as the IP address for the VLAN 1 in this switch. So we finished the address table here. We don't know. Here we cannot set anything for VLAN 1. So let's now do the basic device configuration on the router and a switch. So we need to provide the missing, we finished this one. Name of the router is RTA. And the second switch is ASW2. You will not be able to access the ASW1 switch. Yes, we can access this one. So use Cisco as the user execution password for all lines. So here we have the lines, line console 0, line VTY, and before this we have to give the name for the router. Let's do everything on the router, and then we will go to configure the switch. So first we will focus on the router. We will do the configuration here. So again, enable, and then we need the host name. Configure terminal, sorry, and then we need the host name as RTA. Always see your progressing here. And then we need to configure the lines, and we use the password Cisco. So line console 0. We have the password Cisco, and then log in. This is all about the console. Let's now do the line VTY 015 for remote management, and again the password Cisco. Again log in. You can see here our progressing, and then transport input SSH to enable the SSH protocol, and that's all about the all lines. We did this, and then we need to use a class as the encrypted privileged execution password. So when we are here and when we type enable, we need to put a password here to move forward to the privileged mode. So to do this, we can type enable. We need to go back to the global configuration, and we type enable secret, and then the password is class, and then we need to encrypt everything. Okay, encrypt all plain text password. I already did that. And then we need to configure a appropriate banner. Yes, banner message of the day. Let's say here router RPA. And then we need to configure IP version 4 and IP version 6 for the switch according to the address table. Yes, we need to configure the ports in the router according to this table. We already filled it. So here what we need, first we give IP addresses, and then we set the IP addresses for the PCs, and then we need to give it also a description. So let's do the configuration of on the ports on the router. So interface gigabit Ethernet 0.0. Here I have like an advice for you. Always when you configure a port or ports in the router or on the switches, always give a description. This description is very useful for later when you would like to check the details here. What is the purpose of this port, for which network it is connected, or for which device it is connected. So here, for as example, this port here, gigabit Ethernet 0.0, is connecting to this subnetwork or to this LAN. So I will give a description here that this port is connecting to ASW1. So to do this, I have to type the description, and then let's say here connect to ASW1. So now I have a small message in this port to which network it is connected, and then we give the IP version 4 address from the table. It was 10 10 then 1 with subnet mask. Okay, we need also to set the IP version 6 addresses, and it is 2000. This one we can just copy it from here, paste it here, and then we need to set also a link local address, and it is again IP version 6 addresses 81, but this is link local address, and we need to activate the port with no shutdown command. As you can see here, now it's green, so the connectivity is established, and we have here the status of gigabit Ethernet 0.0 changed to up. Now let's configure again everything with the second port. Interface gigabit Ethernet 0.1, and description. In this case, we are connecting, this port is connecting to ASW2. And IP version 4 address from the table, this one. With subnet mask. IB version 6. Now address is this one. Again, IB version 6 address. Always we need to set IB version 6 address, and always we need to put the link local address FE81 in this case. But this is link local address. Again, notch it down. Okay, so we configured the router with ports in the router, and we need to save the running document interface with description, including the vlan interface. We will do this with the router. And then we need to save your configuration. Copy running configuration. Not in this mode, we need to go up and then copy running configuration, startup configuration. And that's all about this router. So let's now configure the switch. Again, enable, configure terminal, and then the host name should be ASW2. And then we need to use the Cisco as a password for all lines, for line console 0, and then password Cisco, and then login, and then line VTY 015, password Cisco, and then login, transport input SSH, and that's all for the lines. And then we need to set the class as an encrypted privilege execution password. So again, we type enable secret password class, sorry, as it's given here, the class the password, and we need to encrypt all plain text password. So surface password encryption. So then we need to configure a banner message of the day, switch banner here, message of the day. Okay, well, we need to set the IB version 4 and IB version 6 for this switch. As you know, this is a switch, so we don't need to set IB addresses to the ports, but we need to set the default gateway for this device, and we need to set the of course, the default gateway for this device will be the port of this device here. This is number one. The second thing is that we need to set the IP address for VLAN 1 so we can access this device remotely. So let's first do this one. So we will set the IP address for VLAN 1, and to do this, interface VLAN 1, and the IP address for it is from the network, from the address table. with subnet mask. Okay, we can also description here vlan1, and of course we should do no shutdown to set it up. So you can see here changed to up. Okay, what we need to do more is to see what we have here. Document all interfaces, save your configuration. So what we did now, we did the configurations for the device, the switch, and for the router. Verify connectivity between all devices. All devices should be able to ping all other devices with IP version 4 and IP version 6. So what we have here now, we need to do the ping process. So before we starting the ping process, let's check everything. Now we can see our results. It's 66. Let's see what was the problem. So we can go here to check results, and then when assessment, then we go to assessment items, and then we can see here what is the problem. And you can see here, for example, we have the IP version 6. There is a problem here. So what is here now? Yes, we did not enable the IP version 6 on the devices, and here we have a problem with the default gateway. Okay, first we need to set the IP version 6 on the devices. So let's close this. When we are enabling or configuring IP version 6 on the devices, it is very necessary to set the device to enable the IP version 6 on the devices. So to do this, we can go here and then we go to the global configuration mode, and then we type IP version 6 unicast enable or unicast routing. And you can, in this case, we enabled this device to work with IP version 6. We have to do the same with the switch. We should go to the global configuration mode and then IP version 6 unicast routing. Okay, so we did this. Let's see. Yes, now it's much better. And what is also here, let's check the IP addresses on all the devices. So what we can see here as a problem, so the subnet mask and this the network address of this LAN is 10.10.11.0. So this device will be, these two devices should be in the same subnet mask. And you can see here device 4, it is in another subnet mask because it's 20 and it's 11. So here we have a problem. So it is a problem in the troubleshooting. So both of them should be in the same subnetwork. In the subnetwork here, the network portion should be 10, 10, 11. But you can see here it is 10, 10, or it is another IP address. So this one here should be 10.10.11 and then 30, and then of course we can fix this issue here. 10.10.11.30. Okay, now we still have the same problem. Let's try to see what. Let's check the results again, and we have now here the IP routing. It's enabled, it's okay. So we still have a problem with the IP addresses. Let's close this, and then let's try to do the ping process. So from this device we will try to ping this device. Let's see if everything is okay or not. As you can see, it's okay. Let's try to ping IP version 6. It's okay also. Let's try to ping this device. Now it's okay. And let's try IP version 6. So as you can see, the network is working fine. We managed to do the ping process. Let's see one more time what is the problem, why we have this 69. So let's see the configuration of the router. We will see everything. Configure, show running configuration, and you can see here what we have. We have the name of the device, RTA, and it's written here the same. We have IP version 6 enabled. We have encrypted the password. We have the interfaces with the description, the IP address. Also, the IP address is also correct. We also enabled everything. So let's see what is the problem. So in this packet tracer, we will check results from here, and we can see here still problem with the IP address, because in the topology it shows another IP address from IP version 6, and the correct one according to this tutorial, it should be in 200 db8 b1, but what we have in the topology ACAD, so it's a conflict here. What we have got from the topology is ACAD, what is in the correct answers is the 2 dBA. So the problem is here according to the packet tracer itself. However, we managed to do the ping process. Our topology is working now. We configured both the devices, the switch, we configured the router as well. We configured also the PCs, and we managed to do the ping process for both IP version 4 and IP version 6. I think this is the end of this video. If you have any question or questions, please prepare them and we will talk about them in the lab.